why does someone
subject myself to reality TV?
Yeah, like why did you do it? What were you thinking?
I remember speaking to a friend of mine. She's like, did you have a lobotomy before you made this decision?
Did you?
No, I did not.
Smart girl. Dumb questions.
I'm Nayeema Raza. This is Smart Girl Dumb Questions, and that is Rebecca Minkoff. She's a successful businesswoman who started her own fashion label, sold over $100 million of product, wrote a book called Fearless, launched a great podcast called Superwomen, and went on Real Housewives of New York. I needed to know why she did that last thing, and Rebecca is refreshingly candid in this conversation about the money and brand recognition and potential political opportunity that comes with being on reality television. There are also these rumors that questions around her practice of Scientology were part of the reason that Rebecca left the show. So I wanted to ask her about that and also ask her, what is Scientology? Because I know Tom Cruise practices it and raves about it, and I watched that HBO documentary that definitely doesn't rave about it, but I don't actually know a lot about Scientology. And of course, while I had her here, I had to ask her about her core business, fashion. Like, how much do things actually cost? And what will the tariffs do to the price of a t-shirt or a handbag? Here's my conversation with Rebecca Minkoff. Rebecca, thank you so much for doing this with me.
I'm so excited. You were just on mine, and now I get to be in the seat, in the hot seat.
We're doing what is called a pod swap.
Yes.
It's like a swingers party, but for podcasts and not as exciting.
No, because no sex comes of it.
Well, hey, Rebecca, ruling it out already. Okay, I'm so excited to sit down with you. I want to talk to you about Real Housewives, which I've never watched.
Don't bother.
Okay. Ow. Shade from the go. Okay. And then I also need to talk to you about religion because I do want to ask you a little bit about Scientology. I have a lot of questions.
Yes.
Very curious about it.
Yes.
So first, let's start with Rebecca Minkoff, the brand.
So I started the company 20 years ago this year.
And you were a baby child.
I was a baby child. I was 25 years old. And I really just had this, well, I had an actress who asked me to design the bag. But when I designed the bag, it was the pinnacle of Sex in the City. We all wanted to be these strong, independent women and have our bags go with us out to dinner, meet a guy, sleep over, go to work the next day. So that was the name Morning After bag. And it just hit a nerve with people in terms of the style. The price point was a new price point for handbags. And just the idea of a woman kind of reclaiming this, what was seen as like something to be ashamed of, as like a proud moment.
And you were in the scene in New York in like the aughts, right? 25 years ago, you were kind of out and about. Were you socialite? Can I, is that?
I was definitely not a socialite.
You were not a socialite?
Oh, no.
Are you a socialite now?
No, I think a socialite denotes someone who goes to like the charity balls and is very like comes from family money and is like, you know, did that coming out ball. That's what I think a socialite is.
Okay. You're 25 years old in New York, dating, going out.
Yes.
And was Sex in the City out then?
Yes, it had just come out. It was maybe like a year in.
And was New York like Sex in the City then?
It really was. It was so fantastic. It was like, because you didn't have a cell phone, you made a plan, you stuck to it. No one was on their phones wherever you were going. So there was like communication happening between people. And we don't know what that's like anymore.
Yeah, we do not know what that's like. So you make this Morning After bag. It takes off like crazy.
Yes.
And then how do you decide from making a bag to making a business?
Well, I think we began to see, and when I say we, my co-founder was my brother, we began to see that the orders coming in and the escalation of sales was happening at a rapid pace, and we could not keep up. And that's when you go, okay, there's something behind this. Like, let's get serious about it and formalize a business and take it out of Rebecca's personal bank account and her fifth floor walk up. And so it was slow to grow it, but it just kept growing. And it was this beautiful thing that like the orders would just come in, the bags would sell out.
Yeah.
You know, you didn't have to, you know, do any crazy marketing back then. And, it was just a love for the bag. And I think the price point especially was what determined a lot of its success.
And the price point was, again?
So back then, there was luxury as we know it today. There was not even fast fashion. That didn't really exist. So there was like, you can go to Target and buy a bag.
There was like Express and stuff, right?
Yeah, but they didn't really
have limited
bags.
too and stuff. Yeah, but bags was not there.
Correct. And so this price point, which was kind of new and called contemporary, was the $595 range. And we held those price points, and that was considered really great and affordable till the 2008, 2009 recession. And then it was like oh no, that same lady does not have anything, so we're
Yeah.
going to lower our prices.
So then you went to what, like $3.99?
$2.95, $1.95 became the new arena that we still sit in today. We have bags at $3.95, but like for the most part, our sweet spot is $1.95, $2.95.
And fast fashion and recessions are the number one driver.
Well, yeah, fast fashion now you can get a bag for $100, but
Yeah.
it doesn't last long.
Do you think that if there's all this talk right now about are we headed to another recession? I'm not going to ask you your economist opinion on it, but
don't.
if we do, will it change the price of handbags?
We cannot go any lower.
You cannot go any
we
lower.
cannot go any lower and stay in business. So we will probably hold firm. We'll be launching non-leather, lower price bags, but we won't ever do leather below what we're doing now.
And will these tariffs that are being discussed, it's late April as we're taping this, we don't know what's going to happen with the tariffs. One day they're on, one day they're off. It's like the best hot cold relationship anyone's ever had. But if the tariffs kick in, are you going to be able to keep it at $195 for these bags?
We'll have to raise our prices if they don't change. But I think that I just signed on to a petition, the founders of Juliet Wine and about 39 other founders. Together, we represent $1 billion of income that these companies could very well go away if he does not change his path on the tariffs. And I agree with the idea of a tariff, don't get me wrong. But you got to give people like a year, maybe 2 years to find and get new sourcing, not a month or a week. And you know what? Give us some money to open up some factories. They don't exist here anymore. It's not like I can like close my eyes and like open a 3,000 unit per day factory.
You agree with the idea of tariffs though?
Other countries have tariffs. Why shouldn't we?
Right.
You know, and I think that if we can stimulate the economy in the right way by bringing manufacturing back here, but give the infrastructure, build the factories, you know, find the workers. They need to be trained. You know, that all needs to happen before you go, oh, let me slap a tariff and like have you like scurry.
So I've been talking to certain retailers who are like, you know, basically it's like tariff hacks. They're either opening factories abroad, but the suppliers in China are kind of like, hey, we can get this, like wink, wink, nudge, nudge. We can get this in through other ways. We can get this through going to some middle country. We'll get the buttons to Thailand and then you'll have them. And is that what's going to happen? You think people will find kind of workarounds to it? I'm not asking you if you're going to do anything illegal.
No, I'm definitely not doing anything illegal. I think there'll be workarounds, but also you're seeing people just add a tariff tax at the end of, you know, the receipt.
Yeah.
If the cost to us at the end of the day is $5, but by the time it hits retail, it's $30. If I could just pass through that $5 to you, I think that's a smarter way of companies to go about it. Again, that's not my arena, but if I could not do the markup to the $5, and just at the end of the day, the customer's paying $5, that to me is better, but it's complicated.
The customer is always going to end up paying for it, right? This idea that somehow businesses are going to, or the consumers are not going to be, because you're already squeezed through.
We're already squeezed. And our factories, not all of them are willing to, you know, play with us in that arena.
I feel like the prices for everything are higher and higher these days. What is the actual price for like the t-shirt I'm buying versus the markup?
So the usual markup within brands, and I can't speak, luxury is crazier. And then fast fashion is less, but we do 2.5% markup.
Okay.
And that thinking is also about the costs of not just the cost of the garment itself, the shipping it to the eventual wholesaler. They will mark it down. So like usually when you see items on sale within a department store, you as the designer are also paying for part of that. And so that sort of 2.5 markup is what it is. But in fast fashion, that could be a lot smaller. And in luxury, it's a lot higher.
So a $100 item to make will cost $250
at wholesale.
At wholesale.
Yep.
Okay. At a wholesale. So that's the price you sell it to Bergdorf's or whatever.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
And at retail?
So then they usually mark it up 2.5, that. So like if I'm making a $50 bag at retail, it ends up being what, like $395, $400.
When like Bergdorf marks down something, you're actually paying for that. You're taking a loss sometimes on that.
Sometimes you're paying for that. Some of these department stores have what they call margin agreements. So you are going to sell all the merchandise that you've shipped that week or that month out at a 58% margin. Yeah. If they don't sell through the goods and they go on sale, you've guaranteed them that margin. And so oftentimes they then will take the invoice of what they owe you and adjust it to reflect the margin you agreed to. And we used to do that. and our business, which was much bigger but not as profitable. And now we don't agree to a margin and we either take back the goods or we do a swap. Our business is much healthier.
So the best thing you can do as a consumer for the brand, if you want to support the kind of fashion brands you love, is to buy directly from the brand itself.
Ideally, buy directly from the brand. I mean, we have incredible partners, but I would say also, don't wait for the sale. Buy at full price. It helps us all.
But Rebecca, it doesn't help the consumer. How does it help the consumer?
I just buy when I'm in the mood. I don't wait for a sale. If I happen to get on a site and they're on sale, I'm like, oh, that's nice. But I buy when I want.
You don't have some people have. I don't have it, but this cookie called or on Google Chrome, it's like honey or something where you can get cheaper prices for things. I'm not advertising something that's going to hurt your business on my podcast, but there are ways. Like I feel everyone's a deal hunter now. It's like this in university education. Yeah. My former colleague at the Times, Ron, used to do he's the money guy at the New York Times. And he wrote about this in college where like the average tuition in a lot of private universities is now around $70,000, but no one pays that. That's a sticker price and everything's on sale. Every kid's getting like some kind of merit-based aid to help them click through. And then it's often foreign students who are paying that price. Wow. So I feel like there's something similar in...
Oh, for sure. I know there's coupon sites and, there's all those things. I just personally am not that. I'm like, maybe I'm an anomaly. Maybe I should be hunting your deals and I could be saving all kinds of money.
So I want to do a kind of dumb questions round on fashion.
Yes.
And ask you some things that have always perplexed me.
Okay.
So one, I want to know why women's buttons and zips are on like one side. I don't even know. I got to check. Like, I feel like we're on the
opposite side.
Yeah, we're on the opposite side. The men's are on the other side. The women's are on one side. What's up with this? Are clothes sexist?
Some clothes are sexist, but I think it is for anatomical reasons. Mm-hmm. You'll find that on the inside of a men's pant, it is the rise is a little deeper for the balls.
Uh-huh. Oh, okay.
So that is sexist, but I mean, I don't need that extra room, do you?
No.
So that's why that's there. As for the left and the right, I think it's honestly so you can just tell the difference between a men's shirt and a women's shirt. Because, if you're going into a store and, now there's gender neutral aisles, but like if you were trying to find something, I could imagine that, one's left and one's right. So you're like, oh, that's women's versus man's. But to be fully honest with you, I am not 100%. So I'm curious to hear what America has to say.
Okay. What America has to say. I love that.
Or they assume that more women are right-handed and men are left-handed, which isn't the case.
It's not the case. I think you're right. It must be anatomically. I wonder if like more men hang to the left or right.
Also, genetics. Maybe they did a poll. What side do you hang on?
That's
so
what
you
it would
had to
mean,
have the
right?
left-handed zipper.
Yeah,
I guess.
And then the buttons, they just were like, let's just go with the side of the zipper to keep it easy for the men.
Just keep it hard for them to, switch.
Okay, got it. What is the fashion equivalent of the mullet? Like business in the front, party in the back.
It was a nice way to show your outfit, but I'm against it now. It's when you would do the front tuck of the button up in the front and then leave it trailing in the back. I think that's a good equal like for a mullet.
Oh, and now you do the half and half.
Well, now you see like one's tucked side. And one's really long, and I don't like that either.
You don't like that either.
No.
Are you into symmetry? Is that the thing?
I think I just want you all tucked in all around. And if you're too blousy, then they need to make the women's equivalent of the untuck it.
Yeah. Okay. I love it. As seen on TV. You do not make socks.
No, we do not make socks.
There's been this kind of sock trend of like millennials where there's the ankle socks, Gen Z wear the socks up. Now all millennials are wearing the socks up. Yeah, you're wearing your socks up today. Do you believe in this kind of like you can spot a generation by their fashion?
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, but it's also changing so quickly now that sometimes I'm not certain. Like the lines between Gen Z and Gen Alpha for me are a little blurred because it's changed so quickly. And I'm like, wait, which one's doing the baby tees and the Jinkos and which one's doing like 2005, like juicy?
Yeah.
So it's a little hard, but for a while I was like, okay, millennial, Gen Z, Alpha.
What is the least fashionable thing that you secretly love? Is it like Crocs? A puffer vest? Like, what do you wear in secret that you couldn't wear out and about?
I don't wear anything in secret that I couldn't wear out and about. No, if I'm going to wear it, I'm going to wear it out and about.
Okay.
I don't know.
Out and proud with the
I
Crocs.
don't have Crocs, but I want to want them. But I feel like I look so stupid in them. But I see other people who pull it off. And I'm like, oh, that's so cool.
I've never seen someone pull off Crocs.
My
no
son
one.
does a great job at pulling off Crocs.
How old is your son?
He's 13.
Okay. I've never seen anyone above the age of 16 pull off Crocs.
I've seen some like monotone clad like people, like the black socks, the black Crocs, maybe a cool charm.
I just feel like
or
if you replace those
gibbet.
Crocs with anything else, that person's fashion is carrying the Croc. Like you could put a pair of sneakers on those Crocs and then that person would look better.
No, I know. It's a tough one, but I secretly want a pair.
If your fashion routine had like a toxic trait, what would it be?
Maybe I'm learning too much about health, but now we can't wear plastic on our bodies, apparently.
Everything is toxic.
Everything is toxic. And I was listening to a podcast and someone was going pretty deep on like your skin is your largest organ and now it is breathing in this every day.
I feel like at the end of this like health wellness economy, we're all just going to be like naked.
Naked and afraid.
I mean, I have to do a whole episode on like, is everything toxic? Because I feel I have so many questions.
Everything is toxic.
I go around my house being like, is my shampoo toxic? Is my toothpaste toxic? Like I'm scared. Everything seems toxic. I'm being told.
Yes.
Some of it I'm skeptical of, but I don't know. I need to get a doctor. We're not doctors. I can't answer this. We're not scientists. I was talking to Brooke Devard about this. She has a podcast called Naked Beauty, and we're talking about how beauty standards get set. She was saying there's basically, it used to be top down through the fashion, like the 4 fashion cycles.
Yep.
Or is it 4?
4, sometimes 6.
Sometimes 6. Okay.
Yeah.
So it used to come really from the designers and from the makeup artists, et cetera. Now it's a little bit more bottom up, where like things are spotted on social media and influencers. And then there's this kind of, she described pendulum shift of like what's out is in, what's in is out. And that's a way to kind of get you to constantly consume.
Yep.
Do you agree with that? Is that the same in fashion as it is in beauty, that this is the way it's done, like top down, bottom up?
It's all happening at once. I would say that there are probably, the top 10 luxury brands are definitely setting a sort of trend. There's, the term universal consciousness. You have
I don't know the term.
Okay. So it's like that we're all sort of tapped in somehow to something that we're all, I don't want to get woo-woo because I'm not a woo-woo type. We're all tapped into something in the universe.
Oh, you're talking about like the concept of universal consciousness. Okay, got it.
So I definitely think within the design realm, there's something to that because you'll see many of the same or similar things not just happen at luxury, but also with designers not in luxury. And it's like, is it green? Is it platforms? Is it bootleg pants? Like something happens and then everyone or a large portion of them at the same time comes out with that. And then that will start a trickle down effect to trends. And then there are definitely a lot of maybe more technology savvy brands and creators who are then bottoms up, that they start a trend, it goes viral, and then a designer's like, oh man, I got to get on that.
So God sets fashion.
Well,
not really. God/universal
I don't know.
consciousness.
I mean, sometimes you're just like, wow, yellow's the color of the summer. And all the designers the season before did yellow. And you're just like, how did we all know that yellow? But I can't tell you how and why we know these things.
Yeah. It seems like a giant conspiracy. Like I want to find out how butter yellow just came back.
Yeah, or like lilac. Like, where did that come from? Because I think that's the worst color ever.
It's very hard for me because I'm like, I can't do pastels. So this is a very hard season.
It's a hard time.
It's a hard time
But I
for
think
me.
now more than ever, fashion is truly, it's not about who set the direction or tone. It's like what makes and looks good on you. That's what you should wear.
But don't you think that's true? But then sometimes when you put on a pair of skinny jeans, just feels, although I know now skinny jeans are kind of making a comeback, as are thin eyebrows. I feel like it's all.
Please don't trim your eyebrows ever. They will never come back.
When something is out of fashion, like that moment you put it on, I do have this feeling of like, I know this is out of fashion. Like maybe it's my universal consciousness, maybe it's the fashion god speaking to me, but I'm like, I have an allergic reaction. And I'm like, I must replace.
I think there's that, but I think there are things that are timeless and can be trendless that no matter what's happening, you should or should not jump on it. But like the classic white shirt, a great pair of jeans, straight leg jeans, I think can go always.
Right.
They never went out of style even when skinny and baggy were happening.
You made this decision to go on reality TV, on Real Housewives of New York.
I did.
I've never seen this show.
Okay.
But why does someone who is like successful in business, has what seems to be a lovely family and like a lovely life,
subject myself to reality TV?
Yeah, like why did you do it? What were you thinking?
I remember speaking to a friend of mine who's a journalist. She's like, did you have a lobotomy before you made this decision?
Did you?
No, I did not.
Oh, okay.
Several reasons. When I was speaking to producers early on, they said, this is a new direction for the show, or we're taking a new direction for the show. It's 8 entrepreneurial women, all diverse, all self-made, showcasing like their exciting lives in New York City. We want it to be mostly fun and funny, a little bit of drama. And I was like, wow, this is a great opportunity for women to see other women. Finally, a show that's going to showcase and celebrate women, how hard they work, the drama that's already inherent in our lives, not fake. And I made sure to say, I don't throw other women under the bus. I'm not going to start stupid drama about like, you took my tea bag. Like, I'm not here for it. They're like, that is not what we're looking for. And I was like, okay, so maybe I'm naive. I believed what I was told. I clarified it many times. And then it wasn't that, which is why I'm not there.
You really went into this thinking.
I really went into it.
With the same kind of heart that you just gave that public service announcement about the thin eyebrows. Don't do it. Do not fucking thin your eyebrows. You went in thinking this is going to help women. Like you're going to see something aspirational.
It's not like, oh, I was so helped by this TV show, but at least we could show on TV women in this environment being successful, having fun, yes, having a little bit of drama, because that doesn't really exist on TV. It's always women bashing. Right?
Yeah. Although the Real Housewives of New York, I presume, has always been like women working, because I feel like a lot of women in New York, or at least maybe they go on the show and then they start the businesses. I don't know.
So the original franchise was literally, most of them were housewives.
Okay.
Very, married to wealthy men. The reboot was more self-made women. And the first episode had a lot of drama, not a ton, but a lot. Mm-hmm. And then this season was supposed to be like different.
Okay. And it wasn't.
No, it wasn't different. Did
you think it would help your business as well?
I mean, it did.
It did help your business?
My business. Yeah.
How much? Like, can you?
I mean, brand
measure
awareness is up 20% year over decade. That's wild. Like, if you add up what that would cost, and I know one of the cast members likes to go on podcasts and be like, well, she did it for her business. But I'm like, you know what? I'm sorry that 70% of my business shrunk during COVID. So if I have an opportunity to get eyeballs and grow my business, and at the time what I thought was show this incredible story, I've always been about connecting with my customers. So to me, this was another touch point of that.
People get bashed for going on there. I mean, I presume like part of the reason anyone goes on any kind of public platform.
That's what I keep saying when she says this bullshit. I'm like, and you went on there, what? Just because?
Yeah.
No, you needed exposure for what you're doing.
Yeah,
I'm
everybody.
not sure what you're doing, but you needed it.
Yes. Okay, so the business up 20%.
Brand awareness is up 20%.
Brand awareness.
If you add in, that's tens of millions of dollars in advertising and PR and marketing.
You got richer off of this show. Was it worth it then in the end? Because you had a bad experience, I understand.
I had a bad experience. I never regret my decisions, especially when I feel like I thought about this one as thoroughly as I did and weighed the consequences.
Yeah.
I don't regret it. I learned a lot.
I am kind of curious. Like, by the way, now it's all clicking to me why Donald Trump is president. It's the reality TV thing. But the fact that name recognition is like the number one, but that is like name recognition.
It's huge. I mean, it's ironic you say that, because my friend, when I was like considering not going back, he's like, you should run for governor of Florida.
Wait, really?
And I was like, no. He's like, yeah, but look, if Donald Trump can be president, you can be governor of Florida.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to go too deep into politics, but I want to say, actually, I retract my original thing saying reality TV is the reason. It's people like your friend in Florida who are the reason why Donald Trump or anyone is a politician. That's like Arnold Schwarzenegger became a politician. It's someone being like, you could do this.
Yeah. And for a minute, I was like, should I do this?
Did you think about it? Seriously?
I mean, I wouldn't know the first thing about governing a state. So no, but it was just a wild idea to be like, you know what? I bet I could run. I could, because now I've been on reality TV. So why not?
Are you going to maybe do that? Have you ruled it out?
Not. I have no desire to do that.
But imagine what it could do for the name recognition of your business, the brand awareness of your business. I think you'd have
to step away from your business to be the governor, so probably hurt it, but yeah.
Hey, I still see Trump hotels everywhere I look. I'm just saying. Okay, I don't actually watch Real Housewives. I have to look at my questions here because I did not write these all myself. An audience question. What has your reaction been to seeing the way that Sai, Ari, and Uba laughed at you in Puerto Rico when you left the room after telling them to eat dinner?
Oh, that was a really mean moment, because my approach at the time was, they were all drinking and not eating. And then they were acting like toddlers who, when I have a toddler. So whenever I see my child freaking out or being a total piece of shit, I'm like, hasn't eaten or hasn't slept. So to me, I came into the room. I didn't know they were filming a scene. I just thought they were in the room. I knew there was a camera in there, but I didn't know like something serious was going on, what they were discussing. And I said, like, hey guys, the food has arrived. You should probably come eat. We've been drinking a lot. Well, I hadn't been, but they had been. And then they were like, yeah, we'll be right there. And then I left. So I didn't see the laughing and being made fun of until it aired. And I was like, oh, cool. Nice. But I'm not surprised by it at all. Like,
but it was hurtful.
You know what? That wasn't hurtful. That's just like par for the course.
Okay. I take it they called you because this person also sent me you can tell I have no context for these questions, but I usually do much more research, but I wasn't going to go binge watch Real Housewives of New York.
No. It's time you never get back on your
own. But then they asked I guess that you were called a hall monitor or a mom or is there something like that? I don't know, because the subsequent question here is, were you the mom or the hall monitor of your group?
I was the mom of the group. I attempted to be the mom. I was constantly like, how am I going to diffuse this escalating fight about nothing? How, fed, slept is my first two things I always think of. And so there was a certain point while filming where I was like, no one wants me to diffuse this. They're making TV. So I'm just going to shut my mouth.
Okay. And it was surprising to you because that's not what you thought.
It's not what I thought. But by the time I shut my mouth, I was like, well, I guess I'm here. So here, The
fact that people are so watching this minute moment in a hotel room of women telling other women to maybe eat and then other women laughing about the food is amazing. That's where we are in our culture. I have and I'm not judging it. I'm just saying like the fact that there's such a fandom for this show is actually,
the
quite a
fandom
testament.
for these shows is incredible. I mean, the flywheel of podcasts that only touch on recaps of the show, the Instagrams that are dedicated to it. It's wild, and they're passionate, and it's incredible.
So you said you had 20% brand awareness on your business.
Yeah.
Do you have a certain percentage troll awareness or like increase in trolling?
Oh,
what's the percentage increase on that?
Well, I took a stance like block and delete. So I don't have a figure for you, but definitely on the account.
What would it be? Guess.
Oh, at least 10 to 15%. Really? I never had trolls and mean people prior. So this was like, wow, you are really strong in your corner of the internet, little man or woman.
Okay. And it seems that part of the kind of thing that this massive audience has said is that they didn't feel you were in the show a lot. They didn't get to get a sense of you. There was no behind the scenes on your business. They didn't get to meet your family.
None of that was in my control whatsoever.
So did you?
We filmed all that stuff.
You filmed all that stuff. So that was an editing choice beyond you.
Yep. So we filmed some incredible things, and I hope that the person listening to this podcast hasn't listened to the 12 other ones, but like we filmed content with my family. We filmed content with my office. We filmed content of like female founder collective stuff and design, the design industry.
Yeah.
A lot of really fun stuff.
Right.
So to see it all gone, and then what they paired me back to, because I refused to get nasty and dirty, was like this weird character. Like that's not who I am. Yeah. And as I was watching it, I was like, whoa, great. Now America thinks I'm this. Okay. Yeah. So that was disheartening.
It sounds like it was not a nice experience for you.
It wasn't nice, but guess what? Like we can't be bubble wrapped all the time, and so it's fine.
One of the things that people I think wanted to learn more about was Scientology from you, and was that an editing choice, or was that something you didn't really want to talk about on the show?
So it was neither of those things.
Okay.
Can you imagine? So there was a bunch of people that were complaining, like I didn't talk about it enough. And frankly, I answered questions when I was asked. But if I had gone on and be like, guess what I am? I know everyone has questions.
Yeah.
It would have been the opposite effect. She's trying to talk about it. She's trying to convert us. So I went onto the show knowing it's going to get brought up and I'm going to answer it honestly. But I'm not going to sit here and give you 100, answers to everyone's questions, because that's not what the show is about. There isn't enough time to answer these questions. And frankly, a dramatic reality TV show where you're not in control of your edit is not the place to discuss some of your most personal beliefs, in my opinion.
Is it hard for you to kind of talk about Scientology because of the reception? I feel like there's a lot of criticism of Scientology. Larry Wright has done, journalism on this at The New Yorker, written the book Going Clear, which was made into the Alec Gibney HBO award-winning series. I would say like the culture has quite a negative perception of Scientology. Would you agree with that?
I would agree that he actually wrote a book that was not able to be published in 2 countries. And I would also say any documentary that's going to skew 100% one way, to me, isn't a documentary. So to me, I'm going to make an extreme comparison, but if neo-Nazis made a documentary about Judaism, no, it's the same. Would you as a Jew or someone go like, oh, that's what I'm going to believe? And that is the equivalent of that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's how you see it?
Yeah. Because
you think they were wow.
I think when you're doing a documentary film, and I have many friends in the industry, you're giving the person who's viewing it, hopefully, both sides to make a decision for themselves.
I think that I imagine that they might say one of the reasons they made this is because they were concerned about people who might have been being taken advantage of by. So that comparison to neo-Nazis would be something that I imagine they would not accept. Not that they were going into, take out members of the church, but actually going in to protect and to, to investigate. Just like there have been documentaries or exposés on other religious organizations where there's kind of bad behavior either on the margins or full scale, as we've seen in the Catholic Church, for example. I'm not.
But those comparisons, like, I say this ironically on TV on an interview, in any group activity, there's going to be dissatisfied customers, whether it's bags at a restaurant, in a church. Of course, not everyone's going to have this like glowing time. Yeah. But I think when I see the results I've had in my life and my friends' lives and my family and, being better at communicating or a mother or being able to deal with how tough life can be or the fact that I was depressed and anxious as a teen and I'm not. Yeah. I can only speak to that as my truth.
It seems like kind of the challenge, and maybe this was a challenge on Real Housewives, is like having to be the spokesperson for Scientology, which was never a job you kind of signed up to.
Yeah, I mean, and it wasn't ever a challenge to talk about it, but I think, how it was brought up, let's just say with one of the cast members, she never even bothered to get to know me. Then she makes fun of my brand. And then she asked me about my religion. I'm like, do you think that after you threw my brand under the bus and you haven't even gotten to know me at all, now I'm going to talk to you about this? Like, it was just and I said this to her. Yeah. I don't think anybody would talk about their beliefs if they had that experience with someone prior, if that makes sense.
You grew up half Jewish, half Scientologist.
Yeah.
And your kids are?
Both.
Half Jewish or quarter Jewish or quarter Scientologist.
Let me clarify and maybe clear up some of the confusion. And I think a lot of it is this. When people hear the word religion, you think of God, worship, and probably as the 2 predominant things. Anything spiritual in nature, if you open a dictionary, can be considered religious. So when you're
or cultural, actually. Like, I mean, I don't necessarily see it that way. And I'm not saying that you can't be half and half. I'm just kind of curious how you look at it.
Yeah, but I think so people are like, how can you be both? And so...
Oh, I wasn't asking that. Oh, but yeah, that is a question that you get a lot because people see them as incompatible. Oh, because like you can have like past lives in Scientology, but not in Judaism, for example, so that people see them as incompatible.
Yeah, but I would say this. In Scientology, you are either doing a class or counseling to help you spiritually improve yourself. And in Judaism, the culture and the heritage and the prayers and the traditions and a worship of God are what they are. And so I think that, people take one definition of religion and slap that on everything, and then you can't be both.
Right.
But to me, they've enhanced each other, if that makes sense.
And it's enhanced your life. Like you've said, Scientology is a big part of self-improvement for you.
Yeah, it's what I use to deal with stress and pressure. And like, man, it's hard out there.
Scientology has a lot of followers inside Hollywood. Do we pay more attention because celebrities happen to be Scientologists? Or is there something about being a celebrity that makes Scientology quite appealing? Like you're talking about, the self-improvement or stress aspect of it.
I just think that when anyone's going to look for an answer, they're asking a celebrity, but I'd say there's far more non-celebrities in it. Just like, I'm not too educated on this, but like Justin Bieber Kim Kardashian, they all have a specific Christian,
Mhm.
following or path that they have, right? And so they could be looked at as like, if you're going to go ask someone, you might ask them, or you know what I mean? Like you have these people and they're not the spokespeople, but they're like the example that people are like, oh yeah, I see that guy doing
Yeah.
it. So I don't think that there's so many more and it's celebrity filled. I think, yes, there are celebrities, but there's plumbers and moms and doctors and whatever you want that
How-
are far more.
How many people are in the Church of Scientology? Do you know?
I have no idea.
You have no idea.
I don't have millions, but I don't know the exact figure.
And do you go to is it like a Church of Scientology? Do you go to meetings or go to like a place of worship for?
Yeah, there's no place of worship because we believe that there is a God, or you don't even have to believe in God. It's like kind of like the founding principle. One of them is what's true for you is true for you. Like no one should ever be told this is what it is. I'm shoving it down your throat. So if you don't believe it, then you don't believe it. If it doesn't work for you, don't apply it to your life. And so when you're going into a church, that word, I guess, in this sense, is a place of community. And you're either there to do a class or do the counseling. And those are the activities that take place there.
Do you yourself give money to the Church of Scientology?
So if I'm taking a course,
Mhm.
I'm paying for my course.
Right.
They are as cheap as $60.
Oh, okay. What's the last Scientology course you took?
The last Scientology course I took was I wanted to readdress my ability to be present in the moment and to communicate better and to be a better listener. So I took a communication course.
And how long was that?
Well, so the length can be as long as you need to feel like you have the result.
Okay.
So you're not paying by the hour. You're like, here's my $60 class. And if I need a month to get this skill, great. If I need 2 months, so you go at your own pace.
At $60 per class or $60 for the whole learning?
$60 for the whole learning.
And that's the only way that you give money to the church is through the paying for services?
You can donate, and they have a lot of different activities. So some of them are disaster relief in war zones, and you see your dollars impacted there. There's literacy programs, like there's an incredible one in Compton. It's all free for the people doing it, but you are funding these programs.
Yeah.
There's educating children on Youth for Human Rights, which was actually written by Eleanor Roosevelt, but not many people know about what our human rights are.
Right.
There's a whole program to go into countries and educate people. So yes, I donate, but it's completely up to me.
Yeah.
And I know there are rumors out there that I have to give 10% of my income or whatever it is. I give what I want, and that's it.
Can you say how much you give or?
I mean, it differs by year. Like if I'm having a great year, I'll give more. And if I'm, not having a good year income wise, then I'll give less. But it's like many people donate to ASPCA.
Yeah, I'm not comparing it to anything. I'm just curious. I'm just always like curious about people's finances because like it's fun. Part of having a podcast, you get to ask people things about their
Well, I was on
lives.
One Trading Secrets, and I really told a lot of financial information
Oh,
there.
really? Do you think that being a Scientologist would help you or hurt you become the governor of Florida if you were to run?
I can't answer that. It hasn't hurt me so far. I'm doing just fine. And, who knows?
Well, I mean, you haven't run for governor of California.
I have not. And please,
Florida.
for all the people writing about this later, I'm not running for governor of Florida. Okay?
This is definitely going to be a Daily Mail story, by the way. I'm just telling you right now. Is there, in Scientology, is there like I was raised Muslim. People think it's a terrible religion to be a woman. I think it depends kind of where and how you practice it. And, if you read the scripture versus see how it's applied in modern culture, or sometimes you read the scripture and it's worse than how it's applied, and sometimes the other way around.
Yeah.
Do you think that women in Scientology have like a different experience than men in Scientology in any way?
I don't think women have a different experience than men. I think that the goal is to improve yourself as to the best of your ability and to improve and help support others people's lives. And so I'll make a weird example. Like, do you go to the gym once a week to get in shape? Do you go 5 days a week? How serious are you about finding out within you what you want to improve and to do it? And so you can't measure it on men versus women. It's like, how serious are you about self-improvement?
On that idea of self-improvement, do you think there's anything that could be improved about the Church of Scientology?
I don't feel like I should be tasked with giving that feedback.
Right. Or I could ask about Judaism. I mean, do you think you can perfect this religion, the scripture?
It's just not feeling like it's my place to, because it's not my genesis. Like if you said to me, what could be improved about Rebecca Minkoff's customer experience? That's my company. You know what I mean? But I think that when you meet people that are trying to help people every day or the goal is helping you become better. Like, I'm not going to sit here and criticize like, oh, you could have warmed up the eggs for me a little bit more.
Yeah.
Whatever, I mean, those two have nothing to do with each other.
What is the dumbest question you've been asked about Scientology?
The dumbest question I've ever been asked about Scientology.
Yeah, dumbest. Sometimes it's like, dumbest. You can also choose rudest.
I think the dumbest would be there's this whole like alien thing. And I'm like, I'm not sure where that came from.
What's the alien thing?
Oh, no. Like okay, let me break it down for you. When L. Ron Hubbard first started out in terms of how he was going to fund his research, he wrote some science fiction books as a fiction author in like the 20s and the 30s.
Okay.
Became very successful. One of the most best-selling science fiction writers. So people sometimes go, oh, the stories from that are this. And I'm like, no, he had to find a way to fund. He didn't want to take government funding or funding through a college. So he funded it by creativity. And so sometimes people ask me that. I don't think it's dumb because people, again, don't go to the source properly. But I think that's probably the one that I get asked the most.
Yeah. What's the one that's most offended you? The question that's most offended you?
I haven't had a question offend me. What offends me is if someone comes in only one-sided with preconceived ideas and their questions aren't because of curiosity. They're just to like attack you. And I can tell the difference now.
Yeah.
And so again, I wouldn't say I'm offended, but I'm like, oh, that's a shame. You're just trying to do this because you want some rise out of me or you want me to get upset. And I think in today's world, we need to be more tolerant of your beliefs, of mine. I mean, we see what's happening, right? With our mutual heritages fighting. Yeah. And it's sad because there's common ground for everybody. And just because you don't understand something, to me, is not a reason to hate it.
I mean, the show is all about being curious about things that you do not know and asking questions from that place of curiosity, not judgment, and making it safe again. Because I think part of the reason people don't ask questions or have really firm sets of points of view is because they can't actually explore ideas with each other in real life. And so I don't expect you to be a spokesperson for Scientology, but I do appreciate you kind of talking about your own experience of it.
Yeah. And I think, again, you hit it on the head. People are scared to ask questions. And so then you just go away and you're like, oh, I shouldn't ask her this. And I'm like, ask me. You can ask me anything. I might not always have the answer. Like, I don't know how many people are there. But I think that's how people learn. And so there are no dumb questions to me ever. There's just intention, which is like easy to spot in someone.
Yeah. What is the kind of dumbest question that you have that you would like us to go out to answer? So this is my last question for every guest. And we will actually go out and do the exploration, the journey for you. Neil deGrasse Tyson, for example, asked, how do you get cranes to the top of the building? So we went and found a construction worker who had that answer.
Oh my gosh.
So what's something that you want to know from a place of curiosity?
The question that I'm asking, and I don't, this is what I don't want. I don't want everyone has a different answer for this.
Okay. I
want a surefire performance and top of funnel for a handbag company. I want the secret. I want what works for everybody, not what worked for one that you try and replicate and do for another.
So like, why are the successful handbag companies successful?
Why are they successful in selling, let's say, products online at a great ROAS? And is that replicatable for any handbag company?
This is very I feel like you know the answer. Do you know the answer? Do you have an answer here?
I'm curious because when you start doing the deep dive, well, this worked for this one and this worked for this one. And I'm like, you know what? When you go to bake bread, there's a recipe. Yeah. Right?
You want like a clinical trial of handbags.
I do. I really do.
I'm going to call some, recently unemployed people from NIH and maybe see if they can invest in this project for you.
Perfect.
Thank you so much, Rebecca, for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, on this core question of why would anyone do reality TV, I think Rebecca Minkoff just gave us a pretty good breakdown of the pros and the cons of that decision. And, I get it. Her business was super hurt by the pandemic. This was an opportunity to boost brand awareness by 20%, it turned out, which is awesome. Of course, it came with that 10 to 15% estimated troll increase that she talked about, which is not awesome. And certainly doesn't make me want to watch Real Housewives anytime soon. I don't think Rebecca will be watching it anytime soon either. But I understand there's a huge fandom around this show and this franchise. so much so that it's apparently a lead-in to political office. That was wild. It kind of blew my mind and was just a statement about the role that name recognition and popularity plays in our elections, our democracy. Reminds me to do a lot more homework next time I go into the polls of just particularly those down ballot races where I know nothing about the names, but I'd like to make an informed decision. Now, when it came to Scientology, I think you saw or heard me just really caught off guard by what Rebecca herself called an extreme comparison. I don't think it's a fair comparison. It's not a fair comparison. I appreciated how Rebecca stayed in that conversation because she actually had a meeting that she had to run to, and she extended our conversation so that she could answer my questions around Scientology. I think that particularly because there's so much celebrity and Scientology overlap in our culture and our cultural understanding of Scientology, there's probably this pressure to talk about religion rather than your latest project, your work. And I certainly was asking her to do that in the context of this conversation. Really trying to understand and be curious about it. And I learned a lot about the role that Scientology plays in Rebecca's own life. Her point about people informing themselves in every perspective is a good point of view. And I should, as a point of clarification, just note on her statement that the book wasn't published in 2 places. I think she was talking about the UK and Canada when she referred to that. And I believe the book has since been published in both of those places. But the reality here is that the defamation and libel laws are actually really different in, say, the US versus, say, the UK, and particularly what the UK used to be, 10, 15 years ago when this book was being published. Basically, in the US, because we have so much protection of free speech, when you file a defamation claim, it's up to you filing it to prove that what the person is saying was false. In the UK, meanwhile, if there's a defamation case, the defendant has to prove that everything they said was totally true. So I think it took longer for the book to come out, say, in the UK, but it has since been published there. While we're doing fact checks, I should also note that Rebecca got back to me on the tariffs question and said that, it's not all going to go to the consumer in the end, that Rebecca Minkoff is actually going to take a 5% margin hit if these tariffs come through, because that's what's best for the business. They're going to have to absorb some of that hit themselves. So I think that's an indicator that the cost is going to be a lot on the consumer, but businesses are as well might be hurt by these tariffs. We'll see what happens and if these tariffs actually go through, because at the time I'm recording them, they're on pause even with China. Now, on the last fact check, this is a more fun one, my producer, Healy Cruz, was actually in touch with the Smithsonian to figure out and get to the bottom of this question about buttons being on one side for men and the other side for women. Now, there's no clear answer here, but some very compelling hypotheses. First of all, you should know this has been going on for hundreds of years. So historically, it's thought because women didn't dress themselves, they often had handmaidens dressing them, that women's buttons are placed here so that's easier for other people to button or unbutton them. And men's buttons are on the other side because when men were kind of drawing their swords for war, they didn't want to snag up against their buttons or their rifles, as the case may be. So, unclear. I don't know. But I thought Rebecca's hypothesis around the drop crotch pants and the balls was probably factually accurate. That's it for this week on Smart Girl Dumb Questions. I'm Nayeema Raza. I'll see you next week for an all-new episode. Today's show was produced with Claire Lichtenstein, Healy Cruz, and Diana DaCosta, with additional editorial from Andrea Lopez Cruzado. Our theme music is by David Kahn, and I'm your host, Nayeema Raza. I want to know all your dumb questions so we can help answer them, and we'll do a better job in the buttons thing, which we can't get to the bottom of. So send them to me. I'm NayeemaRaza101@gmail.com. I'll see you soon. Thanks.